So guys, we are going to start a a complete Azure course. So today we are going to understand about what exactly Azure is and what you can get it from the complete Azure course. Okay, so that is the agenda of this course. So today we will try to understand what is a cloud is and why companies are hiring more about these cloud engineers and what is the significant different roles in industries currently related to the cloud. Okay, and then we'll see the what you can get it if you join this complete Azure course. Okay, so first of all, you are going to master complete Azure with major services, almost 60 to 70 services in cloud. So using that knowledge, you can apply for the different roles in cloud. For example, administrators, developer solutions, okay, data engineer roles and all. Okay, then whatever you are learning, everything we are going to do in a hands-on learning. Okay, both manually from the portal and automation using infrastructure as a code tools like a Python, Ansible, Terraform, ARM templates and all. Okay, and finally we are going to do these following certifications. You know, these certifications are very much popular and in demand skills. So if you're looking for a new job or if you are already experienced and if you want to do these certifications in order to get better hike in this financial year, you can target this course. Okay, and in this course we are going to teach you about how to tackle these following certifications, including practice test, mock interviews, mock test and all. Okay, until you pass these following certifications, you can join a number of batches. Okay, until unless you pass these certifications. Okay, whoever joined these certifications, we are assure you that you are going to pass these following three certifications, three sets, so that you can showcase these certifications in your LinkedIn profiles, Naukri profiles, resumes and all. If you have already experienced candidate, if you are already working in your company, you can showcase that to get better hike in this financial year. Okay, and we are taking the comprehensive curriculum, that we are taking all the major services including the syllabus that available in the above certifications. Okay, and while learning we'll do some projects, and we are going to target three major projects that relates to the actual real-time project. Okay, so we are going to target three main real-time projects that I will show you in a minute. Okay, so and once you join this course, every day we have a live sessions, and in that live session we have a Q&A session dedicated for the 15 minutes. Whoever has a doubts, so that you can ask me directly, we can talk to me directly. Okay, I will be available by 24/7. We have a separate community for that. Whoever join, you will get all the updates over there, and if any job referrals, if any new openings comes into the picture, so we are going to prioritize our students first. Okay, here in this community you can ask me doubts, you can ask me, you will get the different job openings related to the cloud and all. Okay, so until unless you pass the certification, the community will be active and I will be active for you. Okay, and finally, if you are looking to job interviews, if you are if you are looking to take the interviews, we are going to conduct mock interviews, resume building sessions and all. And finally, we will giving you all the documents, including this PPTs, slides, documents, everything to you. Okay, and the recordings will be the lifetime available, so that once you register for this course, the recordings will be available throughout the lifetime. Okay, so this is about the complete Azure course. Okay, and let me know if you have any queries in this course. Meanwhile, let me introduce these three certifications. Okay, so please ping me if you have any queries as of now. Okay, so meanwhile, let me introduce about these certifications. What are these certifications we are going to target? So we are going to target three main certifications. This includes Azure 900, which is for the fundamentals. If you are new to the Azure, this will be the first step you are going to take, and this badge and the certifications you will get on your name. Okay, and the two main certifications, administrators and developer solutions. So administrators is one who design, deploy, maintain, troubleshoot the cloud services. Okay, so these certifications has a much more valuable, okay, just like a developer has a software developer, yeah, ML engineer, just like them, you will have a more demand in the market once you pass these certifications. And we have a developer solutions. This is something closely related to the developers, so where developer itself can design their own applications using the cloud services. Okay, so if you are already experienced candidate, if you are looking for the developer roles, and if you want to make set the skills in the cloud, so 204 is for you. But what we are doing is we are trying to get all these three certifications in the one course itself, because a lot of the times you will see the some topics that will be in Azure 900 and that in Azure 104. So what we are doing is we are trying to learn all these topics in order to achieve these following certifications. So I will guide you in order to pass these certifications in a single go. Okay, and let me see the chat box if you have any queries meanwhile. Yeah, and please ping me in the chat box, guys. And our team is available in the chat box. And if you want to any queries, you can just ping me. I can answer whenever possible. Okay. Okay, fine. Fine. Now let's see the syllabus, what we are going to cover in this course. So you can see here, so we are going to divide this complete Azure course into the 10 modules. Okay, in the module 1 we are going to understand whether you are a fresher or if you don't have any experience, whether you are comes from the MBA background or a degree. If you don't have any experience in the IT, so in the module 1 we are going to explain those topics. So what is the software industry, how the software development works, and the prerequisites such as Linux and computer networking and all. So in the module 1, whether you have experience in the IT or not, whether you are a fresher, whether you are a college student, whoever it is. So in the module 1 itself, we are going to cover all the prerequisites in order to start with cloud. Okay, so in the module 2, we are going to introduce about cloud computing. Okay, we'll see what exactly cloud computing means, and we'll see why should you learn cloud and what problems it solves and all. In the module 3, we are going to understand about Azure, particularly why we are learning Azure, what is the key concepts in Azure, how they build it. Okay, so what services you have to learn over there. So is it mandatory to learn all these services or not? So those things we are covered in the module 3. Then from the module 4 to module 10, we are going to cover the technical services, what you are going to do in your real life. If you join as a cloud engineer, so this is what you are going to do in. Okay, we have Azure Active Directory services and we have a networking services. This is the heart of this cloud. So most people will confuse in the module 5. So this is one of the most difficult thing in the cloud, and where the students will do mistake in the interviews or the preparations. So that is why we kept this service in the module 5 itself, and we are starting from the very start, very basics from scratch, including computer networkings. If you come from the IT background, CSC or IT in your BTech, so we have a we have a subject called computer networking. So that topic is very much important in cloud. So in the prerequisite itself, we are going to learn that computer networking in order to master these networking services. Okay, we have a subtopics as well that I will go in detail in a minute. And in the module 6, we are going to understand about compute services. This is what they call it as a servers. General meaning of a servers is actually compute services. So where we have VMs, EC2s, web apps, and all. Okay, and in the module 7, we are going to, in the module 7 and 8, if you see, whoever interested in data engineering, or if you are interested in AI or artificial intelligence or machine learning or data analytic, whatever your requirement is, in the module 7 and module 8, we are going to understand about data engineering and all. Okay, we will cover most of the all the types of the storage devices, and we'll see the different data services and database services: MySQL, PostgreSQL, MongoDB, and data factory, Databricks, data lake. So those things we are going to cover in the module 7 and 8, so that once you master this module 7 and 8, you can also apply for the data engineer role, data engineer role, or a data analyst role. Okay, so where you are going to understand how to manage that data and how can you help the developers, ML engineers, data scientists or not. In the module 9, we are going to understand about containers, the modern way of deploying applications, including Docker, containers, and Kubernetes. So we'll start from the scratch. So why we move to the containers, what is a Kubernetes, and why it has more demand nowadays. And if you have any, if you hear this term called DevOps, in that DevOps, the containers are key concepts. Okay, so we are going to learn about that containers in this course. So what is a containers, what is helping us, and how to deploy the containers in applications, what is a Kubernetes, how to understand a Kubernetes architecture and all. And we have a dedicated project for this module 9, because guys, Kubernetes is one of the most in-demand skill nowadays. Okay, if you have the knowledge on the Kubernetes, that means you are almost learn most of the things about DevOps and all. So we are going to understand about containers, and we have a lot of sessions on containers, including Docker and Kubernetes. Okay, and in the module 10, where the most of the students will leave, but we are going to understand in detail about module 10. See, this module 10 is what you are going to work on the real time. So while taking the interviews, so the interview will ask you on these topics, because this is where your daily life majorly you works on. Okay, how do you monitor, how do you troubleshoot in applications? So those things we are going to learn about module 10. Okay, when you go for an interview, so they will ask you about the definitions of different services, what they do or not. But if they want to make it hard, that interview, they will ask you about real-time skills. Okay, there we are going to understand in the module 10, how do you troubleshoot it, how do you monitor your cloud services. Then you can tackle that questions as well. Okay, so this is about a high level overview of this complete curriculum, and we have a sub topics as well, as you can see this in the screen: module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, we have a different topics, and we have in detail of topics, each details what we are going to cover. So using data battery services, data breaks, data lakes, Cosmos DB, we have a different services. We are almost covering 60 to 70 services that is required for any role. Okay, and we have taken this curriculum from the official documentations. So whatever I'm teaching, that is very much latest and trending services. Okay, and let me go back to the chat. Yes, so we are going to cover some of the topics in data 203. So data 203 we are not covering completely, but there is some services as you can see in the screen. So we are going to cover data factory services, where we are going to understand about ETL techniques and all. So extracting, transferring, and load. So if you are interested, you can do this, you can master this service, data factory and data bricks. Okay, in the Databricks, we are going to understand about how to deploy the Databricks, how to set up a cluster, and how to deploy a Apache Spark, and how to deploy all your modules, libraries in that cluster and all. Okay, and one more thing in the data DP203, we are going to cover about databases and data lake storage devices. Okay, basically in the module 7 and module 8. So these are the topics that you will see in the DP203. Okay. And this course is completely in English, and we have a 2 slots for that. Yes, Rinos, if you have a questions, please ping me. Please ping me in the chat box. Okay, and there is 2 slots. We are going to start 6 p.m. IST and 8 p.m. IST. Okay, fine. Let me go to the next slide. Let's understand what is a cloud and why we need to learn and all. Okay. So for the US candidates who are working, who are doing a MS and all, so we have a separate session on your timings. So we'll ping you the details soon. So just communicate with the Dharma sir. Okay, we'll finalize the timings for US students who are working, and so that you can join as well. Okay. For Sydney students. Okay. Okay, fine. So let's start our session actual workshop. So let's understand what is a cloud is and why companies are hiring for the cloud engineer. Okay, so before cloud, let's talk about some 20 years ago, what happening in that. So where cloud is not yet invented, not yet developed. There is no company that is asking, there no company is giving a cloud services some 20 years ago. So in the 20 years ago, there is still software, but how the software are deploying? By the way, what is a deploying? What is called deploying? When your friend says in the weekend they have the deployment. So what does it mean? So what happen is generally in the software industry, so everyone, software developers will write their software in some set of files, right? So someone call it as these files as a Python, Java, JavaScript, Node.js, Node, .NET, C, C++, right? So they may use a different programming language, but the whole process is they will take this file, some files of some folders, some n number of files, they are going to copy that file in a dedicated hardware server. So this server has some CPU, RAM, storage, disk, internet connection, and all. So they are going to copy this. They are going to copy this file to here in this hardware server, and they are going to run it. They are going to run it just like how you running your application in your local. Then they are going to allow users to access. They are going to allow users to access this particular server. So this is how you are using any application, facebook.com or instagram.com, twitter.com, youtube.com, google.com, any application. This is the what happening behind the scenes. They will have the code, and that code is going to copy in a hardware server. There you are going to run it, and the users can access it. Any users who has internet connection can access your hardware device. So that is a simply the term called deploying. Okay. Now the problem here is so I told you about hardware, right? Hardware, right? So this hardware contains a computer like RAM, CPU, storage, a network devices, firewalls, and all. So every hardware, every piece of hardware is going to maintained by your own organization. It's, for example, you are working on a TCS, Wipro, Infosys, Capgemini, Google, Amazon, Facebook, any company, they are going to manage, they are going to responsible for all the things in that particular hardware and set of hardware and all. So this set of hardware we are calling as a data center. Data center. When someone call it as a data center, that means they have a building in some area, and in that building they have some hardware components like this. Okay. Now the problem here is, if let's consider a scenario, let's for example you have your application, developers write their application and that is working fine in their local machine. Okay, someone call it as a local host or 127.0.0.1 or something. That is working everything fine and user can access it, everything works fine. Okay, so let's say for example they deployed it over here and they are using some storage account and they are using some networking services and all. Okay, users are coming, users are sending requests, they are getting their response back, everything is fine as of now. Now for example, these two hardware devices have some issues, maybe network issue, some storage issue, okay, or some software level failure, okay, operating system level failure, some configuration issues, whatever it is. If that server is down, if the server is down, that means you will see this 500 error, server error. This is not a good sign for us, because let's say for example Amazon application, if you find this 502 error, you no longer use Amazon and you will shift it to the Flipkart. So what is happening here? What is happening is your company are losing, your company losing their users. This is not a very good sign for us. So what you have to do generally, if you are using this data center, there will be some administrator or a hardware engineer that will come and they will try to resolve it. This is what happening in data center. Okay. Now the problem here is time. You don't have that time to resolve these hardware issues and all. First point, first disadvantage of a data center. The next issue is, see, for example, let's take the same application, for example, Amazon, and Amazon will initially deploy their application in this hardware. It has 4 virtual core CPU and 10 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. And let's say, for example, some users will try to access it and that is working fine. They are getting response back. Everything is fine. For example, users increased. For example, they may go for big billion day or great Indian festival, whatever they call it as, for some 3 to 5 days, right? Right. So let's say, for example, they have this sales. Now users will increase. Eventually the load on the server is increased. Now what will happen? What will happening, guys? Now this server will crash because no longer it can capable of taking the request. Just like our mobile phone, let's say, for example, we have a mobile phone of some 4 GB of RAM. Okay, now you open PUBG, you open some applications, lots of applications, some 10 applications you are open, you are using Prime, you are using Netflix, you are chatting sometimes. Now what will happen? The 4 GB of RAM is no longer sufficient for you. There you will see some lags in your mobile phone. Now what is happening behind the scenes? The load on this particular file is increased on this particular mobile phone or a device, okay, is increased. Now what you have to do? If it is on premises, you have to go to the market and you have to buy one more hardware device. Okay, so you have to buy one more hardware device like this, and you have to configure it so that even the number of users will increase, still they can get the response back, because this time you have two servers. Now these two servers can handle the request. Okay, now what happening behind the scenes? What is the disadvantages here? Again, the time and money. But how? Let's say, for example, if you want to set up this kind of servers, you have to buy this first, isn't it? You have to buy this hardware, you have to set up in your building, and you have to maintain some hardware engineers, some lot of administrators, you have to set up it. That will take time and cost money as well. For example, that big billion day is completed. Okay, for example, that day is completed. Now you no longer require this hardware. Now what you have to do? You already buy it, right? You're already buy it. Now what is happening? So this is saving some, this is getting some cost, right? Just a second, guys. Yeah. So if you no longer required this all the hardware devices, you are paying some cost. Now again, this is not a good sign because you're not using it, but you are paying it, right? So that is the reason we are moving to the cloud. Okay, we are moving to the cloud. Now what is a cloud? What is a cloud? Now cloud is nothing but a data center, just like how I explained the data center. But this time, these data centers are going to managed by these data centers are going to managed by cloud providers. Cloud providers. Now what are those cloud providers currently we have? We have a Azure, we have AWS, we have a GCP, we have Oracle, Alibaba Cloud, we have a DigitalOcean. So these are the some companies are giving us these data centers and giving us the access. That's it. That's a cloud where we are going to take the rent of some hardware and we are going to deploy our applications over there. Okay, so if you see the official definition of the cloud computing delivers computing services over internet, which means you no longer need to have a data center. First thing, that means you no longer need to go physically to the building, to the data center, and you just required a internet connection. That's it. You just required a internet connection, so that you can get all the computing services like a server, storages, a databases, a networking, anything. For example, let's take a scenario. So everyone have their own mobiles, right? Everyone have their own mobiles. Now in your mobile, if you are using Android, there is a one feature, Drive from Google Drive, right? Google Drive. So this is a one cloud service, guys. This is a one cloud service. Now what this service doing? It can store the data, but not in your mobile phone, right? That means that data will be saved in their data center, Google data center, and they are charging you. They are paying some, for example, some 300 rupees per month, some 800 rupees per year, like that. Now, if you are using that, that means you are already consuming cloud. Okay, in the background, that is what happening. They have their own data center. In the data center, they have their hardware. But for example, here, some storage disks, and they are giving some space, and they are calling as a Google Drive. That's it. If you are using some laptops from Windows laptops, we have OneDrive from Microsoft, right? Again, the OneDrive is actually a data storage service where we can store the data, but not just in your laptop, in a cloud. The cloud is not a satellite, is not a some robotic science, guys. A cloud is still a data center, but the data center is going to managed by some companies, Microsoft, Google, Amazon. Okay, that is what a cloud computing is, and that is the official definition of the cloud computing. Okay, now how the cloud works, how the cloud works. Okay, so as I said, a cloud is nothing but a data center, right? But that is managed by some other companies. Now, before understanding the actual services, let's understand something background, how the cloud works, how the cloud build. So that going forward, you can master it easily. You can take any service, the behind the concept is same. Okay, so let's understand how the cloud works. Okay, now what they will do is, as I said, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Alibaba, Oracle, and all. So they will buy some bunch of hardware devices. For example, virtual cores of CPU, RAM, GPU, network device cards, some firewall devices, load balancers, some GPUs, okay, and some hard disks, some SSD RAMs, some HDD RAMs, and all. So they are going to buy that hardware, all the bunch of hardware, and they are going to install it in their data center. In their data center. First point. The next point is, so whenever the user comes, they can have their ready-made hardware. Ready-made hardware. Okay, so someone suddenly comes and they want some 1 TB of storage. They no need to go to the market, and within a clicks, they are taking the hardware from their own data center. Okay, the next thing is they are going to install a hypervisor. They're going to install a hypervisor. A hypervisor is a software, guys. Is a software that can virtualize the hardware. Which means, for example, what they will do is, what cloud developers, what their cloud platforms will do is, let's say, for example, they're going to buy some 1 petabyte of storage. Okay. Now, for example, one user came to this portal, Azure portal, for example, and he want 1 TB of storage. 1 TB of storage. Now, cloud platform can't assign this whole 1 petabyte to this one user, right? This is not a business works. what they will do is they are going to divide this hardware. They are going to divide this particular hardware into the multiple virtual instances. Multiple virtual instances. That's the reason whether you can go for 1 GB or 1 terabyte from 500 MB. You can go for any sizes. So the technology, the reason behind it is they are using hypervisor. They are using hypervisor. Okay. On top of the hypervisor, they are going to install their services. For example, VMs or EC2s, whatever you call it as. Okay. So this is how a cloud works. Whether you are learning Azure, AWS, GCP, Oracle, DigitalOcean, anything, you can learn anything in your career. So definitely this is how a cloud works. This is how a cloud works. Once again, I'm saying, so the bottom layer will always be hardware. So where the cloud platforms will take care of that. And again, we have a hypervisor. Again, this is also maintained and responsible by the cloud platforms. So the main use case of this hypervisor is to divide, is to virtualize the underlying hardware. Now on top of it, you can choose different services. We have different networking services, we have storage services, we have data related services, we have AI services, we have machine learning services, we have a container services, we have a Kubernetes services. There is almost 250 services in Azure. But the behind the scenes, these two layers will always be same, and the top layer is going to change. That is what the service layer we are calling as. That is what we are going to learn. Okay, so whenever I say, or whenever someone says they want to deploy it in some kind of service, that means they are still using a hardware and hypervisor, but behind the scenes, but on an abstracted layer as a cloud platform. They don't want to give this visibility. Nowhere you will see these two things, bottom two layers. Okay, wherever you go, you will only see the service layer. Okay, for example, let me go to the Azure portal and let me show you that. Okay, here this is Azure portal looks like. So portal.azure.com, and here if you see these all services, so we have this n number of services here. You can see that, right? So on background, in background, they have a hardware, they have a hypervisor, and based on your technology, based on your services, the service layer will change. Okay, so the point here is they have these many services, right? Almost we have 250 services in Azure, 200 services in AWS, and some 150 services in GCP. The question is, do you need to learn all these services? The question is, do you need to learn all these services? The answer is obviously no. You don't need to learn all these services. Okay, because if you see these categories in my left hand side, we have different categories. Now, if you see, we have AML, analytics, compute, container, databases, DevOps, general, hybrid and multi-cloud, identity, Internet of Things, and so many things. So, based on your company requirement, based on your current role, based on your interest, you are going to learn certain services. But if you want to apply for the multiple roles, there is some categories you have to understand. For example, compute, containers, databases, DevOps, and storages, networking, security. So these are the some categories you are going to understand in this complete course, so that this will give you the from basic understanding to some advanced level understanding, because 95% of the time the companies will use only that particular services. Okay, so that is the reason. So whether you are looking for any kind of job role in the cloud era, so this is the right course for you. Okay, we are not just sticking to the any role, we are going to cover the multiple roles, so that in the current job market you can apply for the multiple roles and with it a proof of certification as well. So that is the whole agenda of this course. Okay, fine, and let me see the chat box meanwhile. Yes, you will get the recordings every day and it will be the lifetime available. Okay, yes, every material is free. Okay, including all the certifications, mock interviews, and the questions you will get in the certification as well, certification exam. Okay, every study material, every document is free. Okay, once you join the course. Okay, and that will be the lifetime available. And let me know, guys, if you have any questions in the chat box. Meanwhile, let me continue. You will get the PDFs. You will get the PDF to your mail as a soft copy. Okay. Now let me continue. Now, so wherever you go, whether you are learning Azure, AWS, or GCP, this is what you are going to see. So in this course, we are going to stick with one cloud, which is Azure. So the reason behind it is, so Azure is one of the most in-demand skill nowadays. And once you master one cloud, you can learn any cloud easily, very easily. Okay, because as I said, behind the scenes, so this is what happening in a cloud in the industry. Okay, so whether you are seeing, so just understand what the service is doing, because in Azure we are calling as a VMs, in AWS we are calling as a EC2s. Okay, and let's say for example networking. Okay, in Azure we are going to we name it as a VNets. In AWS we are calling as a VPCs, but the behind the scenes both are same. Okay, so that's the reason, stick with only one cloud now and try to master it. Okay, and based on your interest, based on your company requirement, you can change the cloud easily. Okay, and the duration will be the 45 days of course, and from tomorrow the classes will start. The classes will be start from the Monday, tomorrow. Each day we have 1 hour session, including extra 50 minutes of time for Q&A session. There you can ask me the questions directly, so we can allow you the mic so that you can directly talk to me. And once the class is completed, you will get the recordings, so that you can save it for your in your mission, or it will be available for lifetime. Okay, fine, let me continue. So in cloud, there is advantages. There are a few advantages. Okay, for example, cost efficiency that we have seen as a disadvantage in the data center era, right? But when it's come to the cloud, you can save some cost. The reason behind it is, so for example, if you want to deploy a server in the cloud, for example, a virtual machine, now you can deploy it and within a 10 minutes, you can destroy it. You can delete it. Then you are going to pay for only that 10 minutes, guys. 10 minutes. For example, Azure will charge some 10 rupees per hour for certain kind of missions. So you can go for some and run it for 30 minutes. Okay, 30 minutes, and you can just pay 5 rupees. That's it. But if you want to do the same thing in the on-premises, guys, you have to go to the market, you have to buy it first of all. And while buying, you have to pay all the cost. So this is some kind of not very useful, right? That is not efficient for any company. But when it's come to the cloud, you can do it within a seconds. You can change your architecture simply. So software developers has that flexibility to design different solutions. So that is how nowadays companies are rapidly evolving. That is how startups works. That is how the big companies works. Okay, and there is a few advantages as well. Scalability, and that means you can scale from, for example, you may have one VM, one server. For example, you may have some big billion day for your company, and for example, Amazon. So if you want to increase it within a clicks, you can increase it from 2 to some 4 missions. What is the reason behind it? What is the reason behind it? How it easily increasing? As I said previously, this is how cloud works, right? They have already some hardware layer already set up, already predefined, that is ready made. So within a clicks, once you get the request from the user, once they get the request from the user, they can increase it from 2 to 4 within a seconds, guys, within a seconds, within a seconds. Okay, and once you started using cloud, you may see some modern technologies you can quickly adopt, because no longer you need to understand the technology and installation, because the cloud will set up for you. Okay, so that you can use all the modern technologies, including machine learning, Kubernetes, containers, and all. Okay, now let's go to the hands-on. Let's do some hands-on so that you can understand how actually the cloud works. Okay, so at least you required a laptop. Okay, at least you required a laptop with a minimum configuration. You don't need to learn any softwares in that laptop, but at least you required a laptop with a good internet connection, so that while doing hands-on, whenever required, we can go to the portal and we can do that hands-on. Okay, just like how companies will doing. We'll go for both manually, and we'll understand both automation as well, including Ansible, AMP templates, and different technologies in order to do that. Yes, this course will be helpful for freshers as well. There is a lot of openings in the Azure for freshers. Okay. Yeah, let's try to do some hands-on. So let's understand how cloud works actually, so that you will have more clarity on that, so that you can decide. Okay, so what I will do is I will choose Azure portal, and you can see the Azure portal looks like this. And once you logged in, once you access this application, this web page, it will ask you for the login details, so that you can use your login details, for example your Gmail and all. Then you can go to start. Okay, so what I will do is I will create a server, a VM, and I'll see how it works and all. Okay, what I will do is, so let me go back to my slides. So here I'm going to deploy a server. I'm going to deploy a server. So as I said previously, this is a hardware server. Okay, this is a hardware server, and on top of it, I'm going to deploy a web server, that is a IaaS server. This will allow you to host application. Okay, and then we are going to deploy a sample application. Then we will see how to access it from the internet. How to access it from the internet. So this is how a users from the internet will access in the real time as well. So that we'll do some hands-on on that. So you can understand how cloud works directly with the hands-on. Okay, so let me go back to this portal, and here you can see I have selected the virtual mission. So here you can see virtual mission, and as of now I don't have any virtual mission. You can see it says no virtual missions to display. And let me click on Azure virtual mission. Okay, let me click on create. So what we are going to do is we are going to deploy a hardware a virtual mission. So send it once you send a request, so this will save in their data center, in Azure data center. As I said previously, cloud is nothing but a data center, right? Cloud is nothing but a data center. Okay, now what we'll do is, so you can see the Microsoft data centers. So this is a world map, and you can see the different data centers. For example, in India we have a 3 different data centers: South India, West India, Central India. So each dot represents one region, guys. That means all the Azure hardware will be hosted here, is installed here. So based on your requirement, based on your usage, or based on your number of users there, you are going to host and you are going to select that particular region. Okay, so let's do that. So what I will do is, let me go back to this here, and here it is asking for the subscription. A subscription is for just for billing purpose. So whether you are using 1 hour, 1 month, 1 year, so the bill will be generated against this subscription. If you want to create a subscription, you have to give a credit card or a debit card details in order to create a subscription. Okay, so if you have different subscription, you can select it over here. And the next thing is asking for the resource group. And resource group is something that can hold all your resources logically. Okay, so let me click on that. So let me click on my RG. Okay, and the RG is created. And the next thing is actual instance name. So we are going to install a virtual machine, right? So we have to give that name. So let me give as a my VM, and then the region. This is what I'm saying. You can select any regions in a globe. So if you click on that, we have a different regions. We have East US region, India region, Australian regions, and so on. So the reason behind it is, so based on your users. So let's say for example, your users maybe most of them are in India, or your users may be in US, or your users may be most of them in Europe. In order to kill some latency, you will choose the nearest region here. Okay, here let's choose East US, okay, for example. And let me go for no availability. I will explain once we start this course. Okay, availability means, do you want any replications or not? Okay, I am clicked on no. And the image, if you see the image, it means that hardware underlying operating systems. You can choose different images, Linux or Windows. Let me go for Windows here. And if you scroll down, this is the main thing, guys. The size. This is hardware underlying size, how much you are requesting, how much you are requesting. So here you can see there is a different sizes available. So using hypervisors, this works. And let's go for any size. Let me increase to 2 virtual cores and 8 GB of memory, because we are going for a virtual mission. So this will be the comes under compute, and if required extra disks and all, you can click on, if you go for the next step, and you can add more disks. Okay, this is fine. And every operating system should require a administrator account, right? So let me give an administrator account here. by using by giving username and password. Okay, let me double confirm the password as well. Okay, and pretty much simple, and let me allow some HTTP, and I'm skipping few of the things because it still required some prerequisites. So in upcoming classes we are going to understand those details. Okay, as of now, just I'm giving some basic details over here, and let me review and create. Okay, so what will happen is once you click on create, so it is giving some price. So based on our input, it says 15 rupees per hour. So this may increase or decrease based on your selected size and selected operating system, because operating system requires a license and all, right? So that's the reason. So once you click on create, so this will, the request will be submitted to the any selected region. So for example, I selected East US. So the East US is somewhere over here, right? So this will deploy here in this data center. This is where we are going to deploy our VM. Okay, for example, if you are on India or Europe, you are going to accessing this data center in order to access that application. Okay, so let's wait for a minute. So in order to get it deploy, let's wait for a minute. Meanwhile, let me go for the chat box. So the fees related details. So we are giving a offer today. So whoever joined today, the fees is 5,000. Okay, 5,000. This is the lowest cost in the current market. Okay, so we are giving offer for these few days. Okay, so if you are really interested, you can just ping Dharma sir and he can guide you on how to join. And if you don't have number, just let me know. Yes, we have a one question here. What about the users will be in worldwide? So for example, there is a lot of techniques. So there is a load balancers, there is some network related services that you can have, use, for example, CDNs, content, cache and all. So once you, there is a few other topics as well. So we'll discuss one by one in the upcoming classes. So how can you tackle if you have an users worldwide, okay, and all, okay, we'll discuss, Srinivas. So that is a very large topic. That's why I'm not explaining it now. And this is again, this is the intro class, right? Yeah. So let me give you that number. So I'm pinging here. So please try to call this number, or even you can WhatsApp this number. Okay. Yes. I just pinged that number. So please reach out to him so he can guide you all the details. Okay. Yes, yes, Neha Reddy. You can check in the chat box. Whoever interested, please try to ping that number. Okay, fine. Now here you can see that deployment is succeeded, and we got some succeed message, and there is a one button here to go to resource, and let me click on that. Okay, so fine. This is how you deploy it. Now the question is, you have to deploy your actual code, right? So first let's try to connect to that VM, and as you can see, this is a Windows operating system. I got one public IP address. That means I can access this machine from internet. Okay, so what I will do is I will try to copy that ID and opening RDP, which is remote desktop applications. So if you are using Windows host operating system, this RDP will be pre-installed. But if you are using some Mac, you have to install this Microsoft Remote Desktop additionally. Okay, so let's try to install that. Open that, and here I have just opened. And as you can see in this chat box, I'm going to add one more PC here with that IP address, and I'm going to add it. Here you can see there is a new account added. I'm trying to connect to that IP address using username and password. Guys, this is what I have given while creating administrator account in the VM, right? So let me give you the same details over here. So this will be help me to log into that particular server. Okay, so let me give that. Okay, so I'm given the username and password. Let me click on continue. Now here you can see I was entering into a Windows operating system. That is where I have created just now. So let's wait for a minute to completely load. So this will take some seconds to completely load. Again, that is based on your size and the configurations you have given. Okay. Now you can see some Windows operating system is open. So this is what we have uh, given. Okay. So let's wait for a completely loaded, and next thing we are going to install a web server which is IIS here, and we are going to install a application here. Okay, so let's wait for a minute. Here you can see it is loading completely. Let's wait for a minute, and then we are going to install a IIS server here and application. Okay, it is completely load. So let me click on this add role. And guys, I'm skipping this part because this required some extra classes to understand. So I'm skipping this part. On a high level, I'm just installing a web server in order to get that mechanism request and response. Okay, so I'm selecting this web server IIS and installing this feature to the server. Okay, I'm clicking all to the next and install. Okay, it will install in some time, and meanwhile let's create our application. Okay, so the timings will be 8. We have a 2 slots, 8 p.m. slot IST and 6 p.m. slot IST. Okay, yes, Renivas, exactly. So whether you are seeing once the deployment is succeed, that means the cost related to that server is charged on you, behalf of you. Okay, whether you selected subscription, right? So on that subscription, you have to give some credit card, debit card details. So on that account, the charge will be happen. Okay, yes, once the deployment is succeed, then the charge will start it. Okay, because no longer the Azure won't take care whether you are deployed application or not. It will start from the deployment is succeed. Okay, got it, Srinivas? Okay, so it's still in installing. So what I will do is I will go to the notepad and let's try to create some basic HTML. Okay, I'm opening notepad, and here let me give some basic HTML code. For example, this is complete Azure course and welcome to the apps. Okay, just a few lines of code. And here, this is just a basic code. And again, the developers will take care of this code, guys. Okay. And let's say, for example, classes will start from Monday. Okay. So this is a simple course that I want to display in my application. And let's see this status of this IE server, and it says installation is complete. Let me close this part and let me save this part. Okay, let me click on save as. And once you deploy this IE server, there will be the one folder will be created. So here you can see C drive, inetpub, and www root. Okay, and let me save it over here. This is a default page which is index.html, and you can see I'm just saving as a all files and I'm clicking save. Okay, what happened now? Now if you followed along with me, that means you have successfully deployed a application, guys. Okay, so what I will do is I will try to access that application using the public IP. So I'll just copy this part, I public IP, and who are interested, just try to ping this number. Okay, I'm giving this IP here. Just try to access that IP in your browser. Let me know what you can see from that. Okay. Now, if I try to access that IP, let me copy that. Let me try to copy this IP. If I try to access that IP, let's see what will happen. I'm just entering, guys. I'm just entering. Okay. Let's see. See what I can see here. So I can see my content in the internet. What is happened behind the scenes, guys? What is happened behind the scenes? We deployed a server within a seconds. That means we have a hardware server, we buy it, and we're paying for the ongoing process. And we are deploying a application over here. And within a seconds, I can deploy my application. Okay, so this is how cloud works. For this advantage, the companies are moving to the cloud because we are saving lots of time for them, and we are saving cost as well, because it was charging for the hourly basis, and if required you can delete it, if required you can create it within a seconds. Okay, so the reason behind it is this one. The companies, why moving companies to the cloud, why there is almost lots of hiring on the cloud, that this is the reason. Okay, I hope everyone understand how I did it. Okay, let me go to the we have a Q&A session, Srinivas. Every day we have a Q&A session. So where we have a 50 minutes of time, extra time, other than the 1 hour of session. So where we can discuss one-on-one. Okay, where we can talk directly. Okay, even you are a non-IT background, that is completely fine. Okay, because we are trying to get from very scratch, very basics. Okay, from software industries, how the software development life cycle works, what is a networking, what is a operating system, what is a Linux. From that level we are going to understand. Okay, yes, 45 days of classes is enough to complete these following 3 certifications. Okay, and the course timings is 7 p.m 6 p.m to 7 p.m IST and 8 p.m to 9 p.m IST. You can join in any slot based on your timings. Okay, And let me know, guys, if you have any questions. Meanwhile, any queries on the complete course, any doubts on the career